Hello everyone and welcome back to my Backgammon channel. It's with great pleasure I introduce today winner of the Swedish Open, Grandmaster 1, only 10 in the world currently, Thomas Tenland. Welcome good sir to my channel. How are you doing today?
Thank you. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm also well. To have you here to rack your brain to get your insights. Tell me, Thomas, what first drew you to backgammon? As it can...
Well, actually, I tried it out the first time playing with my girlfriend in my early 20s. And I liked the game, didn't play it again for several years, but then yeah, somehow I was interested in learning more about the game, and so I picked up a few good books and some not so good books, and read a little bit about it. Read also McGrill's Backgammon,
Yeah.
and yeah, I very quickly got hooked. I played a bit against GNU. I played online on Fibs, as it was called, and yeah, I just got hooked.
You got hooked. And what do you love? What kind of captured your attention about backgammon?
Um, I think there are several things. I mean, it's a game of logic, which I like, for one, but also I think it's also a very beautiful game. It's beautiful in several ways. I mean, one thing is, I think, in our world today, we're spending a lot of time on our phones or on our screens, whatever. Backgammon we can play on piece of felt and with some wood, and it gives a good genuine feeling like that. And then I think it's also a game that can be very beautiful in the sense that, for example, mathematics can be beautiful.
Yeah. Explain more. What? How can maths be beautiful? It's a very philosophical
I
question,
don't
but
know. I mean, that is to me, that is a difficult question to answer. How can anything be beautiful in a way, you know?
mm,
But I mean, it's just inspires a very good feeling to witness a beautiful backgammon move. For me, at least.
yeah, I agree with you. I think sometimes understanding the right answer, there is an elegance and simplicity in that. And I suppose beauty is simple, really, but incredibly complex. We could just talk about beauty for an hour, and then that would be great. Did you have aspirations back then to be a grandmaster? Do you think?
No, no, I didn't. I mean, I I merely aspired to understand something about backgammon and become, you know, somewhat proficient, and just learn to play okay, and to beat my friends and so on.
Yeah. So when did you make the step to take it up seriously and really, lower your PR and get to that higher level?
Yeah, I mean, very quickly, I would say, because I read some backgammon books, and I played my first tournament, I think, only like 3 months after starting out or something like that. It was a coincidence. I found a tournament in Copenhagen, uh, and I was very lucky and won the tournament, actually, in the intermediate division. But already then I had studied a little bit. I read some books. I asked some people how to play, basically.
Sure. So can you remember what else you read besides McGrill? What other backgammon books kind of started you on that kind of journey?
Yeah, there were a couple of really bad ones that I don't recall the names of. I mean, some. I mean, if you just Google backgammon book, you will probably find some 70% books that you know that are good, and then there will be some outliers that are, not the best. And some of them were like that because I just got some random books, basically.
Mhm.
But of the good ones, there were 501 Essential Backgammon Problems from Bill Roberti.
Very good. Yeah.
Um, there was Backgammon Boot Camp. Yeah, I think those were among the first I read, and then pretty soon after, Modern Backgammon by Bill Roberti as well.
Sure. And when you started out, was there a backgammon scene in Sweden? You know, people were playing cafes with a lot of chouettes.
I think not a lot in Malmo where I live. The main backgammon scene in Sweden is in Stockholm, and I think it was at that point as well. But there was and is a backgammon scene in Copenhagen, quite a big one for that matter. And there was a team from Malmo participating in the Danish elite team division. So I could join that team, at least eventually, and talk to those guys about where I could play other tournaments, etc. So so there was kind of a scene, but not a big one in Malmo.
Sure. And when you began and you were reading these books, did you absorb the information quickly? Did you have to reread them? Did you use XG back then, or GNU, or I think you mentioned that? Yeah.
Yeah, I used GNU initially, but then when I won this intermediate tournament, I took the prize money and invested it in XG. That also says something about how much prize money it was. But but anyway, so then I had XG, yeah. But how quickly did I absorb? I don't know. I mean, I think I was. I mean, I was pretty good at learning things about backgammon, etc. But it's pretty difficult to read backgammon books when you have almost no experience at all. So some of these books I revisited. So I basically maybe I read 3 books in a sequence, and then I repeated the sequence again, reading them from the first one over again, the second one over again, the third one over again. And as I reread them, I understood more than I understood the first time.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Do you feel like you played well in that first tournament in retrospect?
No, I played horribly, of course, but I mean, of course, I don't think that I was worse than average in the intermediate division where I played. I played okay in that sense, but at that point maybe my average PR could be I don't know. But anyway, I'm better today than I was then, at least.
Yeah, a lot better. So you was it last year you were awarded G1 status?
True, yeah, it was last year, yeah.
So how did that feel, getting that award?
Yeah, it felt very good because I mean, sometimes as you try to become better at backgammon, you plateau basically, and I think at maybe around 3.5 or 3.4, it became very difficult for me to take the next steps and go below 3. Maybe that is the case for everyone. I don't know, but anyway, I think averaging below a 3 is a great milestone in my opinion.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and congratulations on that. I mean, very impressive. Let's talk more
Thanks.
about that, because I'm interested about the transition from, G2 to G1. You said kind of going below an average of a 3 PR. How did you make that transition? What did you change about your game or your study to achieve that?
Yeah, I don't know that I changed a lot, to be honest. It was more like, maybe it takes a few years of playing and studying and trying to get better to get to below a 3.5, and then it takes a few more years to go below a 3. I don't know that I necessarily changed that much. It's more like, yeah, it takes an increase in your understanding of the game, just like basically any improvement. But I think that it is easy to underestimate, or at least maybe I did at the time, the difference between 3.5 and 3.0. It is, I think, maybe bigger than some people think. At least it's bigger than I thought.
I mean, how would you define that difference between 3.5 and 3.0?
Yeah, I think that is, again, it's a good question, but it's very hard to answer. I mean, in principle, not all sub 3 players are created equal, and the same is true of 3.5 players, of course. So it is hard to say what the difference is. It is just you need to be better. It's as simple as that. So, but I think in backgammon in general, it is perhaps more important not to be terrible at too many things than it is to be fantastic at a few things. so I assume then, I mean, based on that logic, perhaps the difference is if you're a sub 3 player, perhaps you are a little bit more complete as a player. So maybe there are a few positions less where you go terribly wrong. You still go wrong in very many positions, but maybe you only make a 120 blunder instead of a 250 in some of the positions, etc. So I think it's very difficult to say what the difference is. It is just, in short, your understanding of backgammon is slightly better. It's as simple as that.
So your understanding is improved through more experience, more matches, more analysis. Did you notice any like minor inconsistencies in your play? Is there anything you picked up on you hadn't noticed before?
What do you mean by inconsistencies?
I don't know. Like at your level, I mean, like maybe there was something tiny that you didn't completely fully understand or absorb, and that kind of clicked into place kind of later in your game.
I see. Probably a lot. I think. I mean, there's still a lot that I don't understand, and I mean, I think it's a lot of the time it's about balancing different arguments and figuring out what's most important in this position. And like Steniek Sitska writes in his book, what's going to happen in this position? What do I need to prioritize to maximize my equity here? I think it's a lot about that, because when you're down to say a 3.5, I think in most positions, at least roughly what arguments point in what direction when comparing two plays. But perhaps, the better you get, the more you know what you need to prioritize. You understand more about the position simply, and then there can also be other things, technique. I mean, you can improve your time management, for example. That has been a big issue for me, and I'm still not very good at that. But as I've played more games now than I had 5 years ago, I can play a little bit faster without playing necessarily worse. So that also improves my performance, since I don't have to play as many games in time trouble as I used to.
Yeah, sure. So regarding analysis, after you've played a match, you look back on it, you run it on XG. What do you do if you see that you've made a blunder in one of your matches? Like, what do you do then? With that, how does that lend itself to you improving?
Yeah, I think it depends a lot on the reason for the mistake. I mean, sometimes it's like it's a brain fart, basically. you know afterwards, okay, that's a very bad play. Let's not make that one next time and forget about it for now. But sometimes we got to realize we misevaluated a position or something like that, and then I would try, often using the dice distribution in XG, to figure out where I went wrong. Perhaps also try out a few different variants in XG and see if I'm right in pinpointing the main thing I got wrong. So in short, I try to understand why it was a mistake so that I can avoid repeating it.
Absolutely. And how much analysis do you do of your matches? Do you analyze every single match you play online and live?
No, not every match, but almost every match. So for example, now in the Swedish Open, there was so many matches and there's so little time in between, etc. And also some matches that I played when I was extremely tired, for example. Then I didn't put too much analysis into that match. But in general, if I'm playing against the computer, if I'm playing some other match, I generally always go over the match, and then I may do it more or less. What can I say? More or less carefully, but I always go through my matches in general.
Yeah, and do you look at the moves you got right as well as the moves you got wrong, or you just pick up?
Yeah, I look at every move. Yeah. But of course, I mean, I don't linger on some obvious move that I got right. Of course not. But I mean, I browse them very quickly in XG, and I if there's some interesting move that I got right, I'll check a little bit that my thinking of the position was at least okay, and then move on. So so generally I try to correct my analysis of every position. So I try to figure out, was my analysis or where did I go wrong, or were my estimates right, etc.
Sure. So do you categorize your mistakes? Do you have a database you keep?
I know the right answer to this question is yes, but no.
So what do? You just embed them in your memory through the variance and so on? What happens?
I mean, what I usually do is, if I identify things that I did wrong during the match, I analyze that specific position and some variance and try to figure out where I went wrong. If I realize that there's a given type of dilemma that I just handle quite poorly in general, then I try to do some study of that dilemma in general.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily just collect all my errors in holding game positions. Maybe I don't do that. But when I realized there was some holding game positions where I made mistakes, I try to, create my own variance and see what makes this play correct, what makes that play correct, etc.
Makes sense. So why do you think there are so many players, well, not so many, who are like G3 level, G2 level, but so few, like only 10 at G1, and obviously there's some, super Grandmaster in the GZ. Why is that? What's kind of preventing them from reaching a higher level, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, that's a difficult question. I mean, the one answer is, of course, the difference between G2 and G3 and G1 is relatively big. So I mean, if your average is 3.7 and you want to change that to 2.9, well, you got your work cut out for you, basically. So that is one answer. But I think it's also one thing is also incentive. I mean, say that your average is a 3.7 from a financial perspective, or if you're trying to play tournaments and you want to win tournaments, etc., you don't have a lot of incentive to improve to a 2.9. I mean, you do. Your equity will increase, but compared to the effort you need to put into to succeed in doing that. So I think that is one of the reasons. There, of course, there is the UBC now and things like that that have increased incentive actually to try to perfect your game. I was never really driven by that in that sense. I just think it's more rewarding for me to understand more about the game. Whether I win 0.1% more of my matches or 10% more, I really don't care that much. I just think it's fun to understand new things about the game.
So it seems like you're quite fastidious, and you have this curiosity, I would say, about the game. Would you say you're a curious person in general? You like learning?
Yeah, I like learning new things for sure.
Were you like that as a child? Did you learning about the world? I'm just kind of interested, kind of in now. Were you always kind of?
I don't know. I mean, don't all children? I don't know, but yeah. I mean, I always I think I've always been interested in learning new things. Yeah.
Sure. So the next step, G0, Grandmaster 0, is that what you have your sights on next?
Yeah, I think it's I like my chances to become a G0. I think it's hard. I think is it 4 players that have done it so far? I think something like that.
It's slim,
there's a reason for that. Of course, it's not so easy, but yeah, I think I have. I'm not sure I need to get better to become a G0. I'm not sure I need to get better. It's possible that I can just play some tournaments and it will work out. But I know that if I ever want to become a super grandmaster, I need to improve. Become a better player.
I think there is a strong argument that you could be in the future Europe's first super grandmaster. I'm pretty sure you're on the right path, anyways.
There's some chance. I mean, to be honest, I don't care a lot if I'm the first or the 40th. I think to get to a PR average of below 2.5 is a great accomplishment, as I see it. Whether someone did it before or not, I think currently there's only Mochi, but I feel like, for example, Hideaki will succeed in becoming a super GM whenever we see him play again.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's absolutely not an unrealistic level of play to reach, but it is a very, very, very high level of play.
Yeah. What do you think makes the Japanese players so good? Like, what is it about kind of the way they play?
I think they're very structured in general. Mm-hmm. They're very professional in their attitude towards backgammon. I mean, not only professional in the literal sense, but of course that helps as well. I mean, several of them are full-time professionals. Yeah. That helps if you want to get better at something. But yeah, I think they're structured. I think I know that they cooperate. They share information among themselves, etc., and try to help each other to become better. That is a factor as well. But I think the biggest reason is they're really trying to get better. Yeah. I mean, some of the players, if you maybe not in the top 5 or the top 10, but if you take the top 100 backgammon players, there are several players that are not trying to get better. I mean, everyone wants to be better, but some are kind of not trying to get better.
Yeah.
Whereas I think the Japanese players, yeah, they are trying.
Absolutely.
And they're succeeding, for that matter.
I think what's interesting, you watch a Monte Carlo matches, and people like Zenek and Wilcox and Sander, they are playing like long matches below a 2.5 PR, which is Super Grandmaster level, but it's not consistent enough to be awarded the title. So it seems to me, like you said, you already are G0, you already are, but it seems to be more about maintaining that across every match. So is that just down to fatigue? Like, what is it?
I think in general, let's put it this way: if you want to average below a 3.5, you need to feel like you should average to 3.2, and if you want to average below a 3, you need to feel like you should average at 2.7. I mean, it's because it's not just a matter of inconsistency; it's also a matter of variance. As you could also see in the final yesterday, sometimes a game arises that's gonna hurt your PR significantly.
Sure.
And I mean, if you're gonna play 300 experience points, some anomalies will occur one way or the other. Some will help you. I mean, sometimes you're gonna play a match that was extremely easy. You basically just bore off your checkers, and XG was cheering for you and giving you a 0 PR. That's gonna happen sometimes, but you're gonna encounter very difficult matches. Sometimes, just like you mentioned, you're gonna be very, very, very tired and have to play a match.
Mm-hmm.
And when you are, maybe you don't play as well, or maybe you even play terribly one match. And if you do that, you need to play very well to compensate for that. So I think it's very important to know that you cannot become consistent in terms of PR. That's impossible, because not all matches are equally difficult to play for different reasons, either because of how the match plays out or because of your preparation in different ways. So I mean, even for a guy like Mochi, who plays, I guess his average is below 2.5. I guess it is. So if you want to average below a 2.5, you need to very, very, very often play below a 2, because sooner or later you're going to play a 3.9, and then you're going to have to work your ass off to get below 2.5.
The outliers, yeah. It's interesting, that match. Yeah, the Sander and Zizi Monte Carlo final. You can watch that, by the way, online at Greg Galaxy Production. And they had that backgammon. I've never seen anything like it. And I think you said in the chat, classic reference position or something. But some skeptics would say then that what is the point of PR if some players are going to end up with like a fiendishly complicated backgammon that really no one knows how to play correctly? Is PR a good measure, do you think?
No, it's not a good measure. It's not. But it depends a bit how you see it, I think. If you see PR over the course of, for example, like the BMAB 300 experience points, then it's a decent measure. Absolutely. I mean, then you have a sample that's big enough that, I mean, you can be lucky, you can be unlucky, you can overperform, you can underperform, but more or less you're going to have a pretty decent average there that's going to be reflect more or less your skill level. But in a given match or a given game, even then it's a very poor measure, because it's much more a consequence of different coincidences than it is a consequence of precisely how well you played that game. I mean, like we said before, some games are going to be very easy, some are going to be very difficult, and in this case, there was a game that we need to question even whether XG plays it perfectly.
Yeah. And XG3, do you think that will kind of understand back games? It will have the final answer
It's going to be better at containment. I know that's one of the things that they improved for XG3.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know when we will have XG3 or if we will, but yeah, if that happens, it's going to be better at containment. However, I also want to point out, I believe that XG is already defending and playing back games very, very, very well.
Yeah.
It is just that sometimes it can go past the point that XG hasn't really experienced enough in its training, and then it's going to play very poorly.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that happened in yesterday's match, but maybe it did.
Yeah, because that's interesting. Because how do we know whether Sander and Zizi played the bad game well? I mean, how do we know whether they did or they didn't? Do we trust XG or do we not trust XG? And what do we have instead? We can roll out every single position, sure, but even then, we're relying on XG as well, aren't we? So
right. I don't think if you end up in one of those positions where XG where the wheels come off, basically, rolling it out is not going to help. So all you can do then is you can apply some sort of expert judgment, I guess.
Yeah.
I haven't looked that closely at it, and I'm not going to pretend I'm a super expert on that position at all. So I don't know, but it's kind of. I mean, I agree. PR can be questioned in this specific game, okay, but it's also like some people are finding an excuse for invalidating lots of other data points that are valid.
Yeah, that's a good point. So you recently won the Swedish Open, Thomas. Congratulations on that tournament. Great watching your matches online. I mean, how did you feel at that tournament? Did you feel like you were on your A game? How was it for you?
No, not at all. I mean, I played very well to begin with. I slept extremely poorly during the tournament because the hotel didn't have air conditioning, so it was and there was it was pretty hot in Stockholm some of those days. So I slept very, very little for a few nights, which made me play a little bit worse in this quarterfinals and semifinals. Other than those two matches, I played really well. I mean, and then when I qualified for the finals, I knew that I was in the finals, so I actually bought one night's stay at another hotel that had air conditioning. So I slept a little bit before the final, and then I played better again.
Amazing. Did you prepare much for that tournament?
Yeah, no. Well, I always try to play a few matches against XG, analyze the matches, try to look at some positions. I didn't prepare more than usual, but sure. I was in good shape. Yeah.
I think one thing that people notice when you play is you have this composure and a kind of coolness that nothing seems to perturb you when you play. Have you always been like that as a player over the board?
Yeah, I've always been very slow. So if people confuse that with composed, that's great. So no, but yeah, I mean, I've always, I think I'm a pretty calm person in general, and yeah, that's probably reflected in my over the board as well. But sometimes I have too little time on the clock, and then I have to stop being calm.
Is that like a Malmo temperament, or is that a Tenland temperament? That kind of.
I don't know. You mean that we're maybe easygoing a bit or something? I don't know. I think it's a more a personal thing.
Yeah, it's nice to see that, and you can say the same about Japanese players. They just are so in the zone and focused. It's impressive. Nothing seems to sway them when they're playing. So, what advice would you have for players who do get a bit kind of agitated, you know, when they're playing? Is there anything you can advise?
Anger management courses or something. I don't know, but it's um, well, I think you can try to shift your focus. I think from winning to maximizing your chances of winning.
Okay.
I don't know if that makes any sense, but I mean, you don't. It doesn't really serve you to react too much to whether or not you are lucky at the moment, whether or not you're rolling well. It's better to focus on, okay, this is the move I've got in front of me. Let's make the best move. Okay, now I have another move. Let's make the best move again. And now I have a cube action. Let's see if I should take or pass. So I think that's one way to deal with it, is to, I mean, if you want to remove your focus from one thing, you should move it to something else. And I think you should move your focus towards making or playing your best.
Yeah, you're right there. So rather than the win, how each move moves you towards a win. I think you said something.
Right. I mean, rather than focus on whether it seems like you're winning or losing, focus on making the best of the situation all the time.
How much do you think the fallacy kind of works? You know, telling yourself you're going to win, the psychology. Do you think that's effective or not so much?
I don't know. I mean, of course, it's not going to help to think that you will roll 6-3. I mean, it's not going to make you roll it. But perhaps, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I mean, because there is something to be said for psychology in backgammon. Absolutely. I don't believe in it in the sense that it's going to affect whether you're lucky or not, but it can affect. I mean, are you brave enough to do what is right? Are you willing to take some chances, even though it can cost you the match? Are you very confident over the board, and that makes your opponent a little bit cautious? I mean, something like that could influence. And that is somehow connected to wanting to win and everything like that. So I'm not going to disqualify that completely, but I don't think you will be lucky just because you visualize a specific role.
Yeah. So do you make those adjustments when you play against opponents? You know, the mind games, the psychology. Do you kind of dabble in that a little bit yourself? What do you say?
Yeah. I do, and it usually makes me play worse.
Okay.
But it depends a little bit. It depends who you're playing to begin with. If you're playing some absolute elite player, it makes little sense to consider what they're gonna do too much. But if you find yourself in a match where you're a huge favorite or underdog, you may want to make some changes. For example, maybe you don't want to take a big cube in a race if it is a small take, for example.
Yeah, borderline decisions. Do you think there should be a touch rule in backgammon? I've heard spoken about. Would you like to see something like that? Like chess?
I don't know. I don't really care. But on the other hand, you could say that there are already some rules that are perhaps not always being followed. I mean, moving the checkers with one hand, whatever. Some of these rules are pretty good because they make it clearer what's going on. I mean, for example, in the US, I know they have some rules that if you're trying out some move, you need to put the checkers high up on the pips so that you can see what checkers you have moved, stuff like that. People don't necessarily follow all these rules. So if you have touch move, I'm pretty convinced people would start following that immediately, because it would cost you a lot if you don't. So in that sense, maybe it would make the flow of the game nicer and cleaner. So there's something to be said for that. But at least some players who move the checkers around a lot, yeah, they would have some visualization training to do then, because I think it matters a little bit.
Yeah, I think there can be some kind of hocus pocus when people are moving, they've got a double, and checkers are going everywhere, and it kind of bamboozles you. You know, it's hard to remember what the original position was, and sometimes a pip difference, as you know, can be absolutely crucial. You know,
Sure.
so
yeah, and it's a little bit annoying as the opponent to have to keep an eye on that if your opponent is known to make a few illegal moves intentionally or more likely unintentionally. Yeah.
how do you? I mean, do you get much of that? People trying to cheat and deliberately kind of make the wrong play against you. Obviously, you're a very, very strong player, and I imagine most of your opponents aren't at your level. So do they try to, you know, outfox you by making a swift illegal play? Is that...
No, I wouldn't say that at all. Maybe one reason could be that I'm recording 100% of my matches. So if you are doing it, it's going to be noticed at some point. So maybe that has some impact, but and maybe then that is even one more advantage to recording your matches. But I don't think people are doing that at all.
What players do you look up to? Are there any players you really admire in the backgammon world? Inspire you with?
Yeah, the best. Like, I mean, yeah, Mochi. I mean, he is the best player, so it's very difficult not to mention him, and how he has improved his game over time, and yeah. So yeah, I have to say Mochi.
Mochi, yeah, absolutely fantastic. So I'm aware, Thomas, you're writing a book on third role positions.
Yeah.
So why did you choose that topic to write a book on third role positions?
Well, one reason is at least that it is one of the topics where I'm most qualified to write a book.
Okay.
Because you know, I studied it a lot, so I have some things that I have figured out and that I can share in the book.
So you have a lot of experience. You've done a lot of work, kind of on that. I'm aware on Heroes you got I think the highest score from some of the tests on
Yeah, and his Italia's quiz there. Yeah. Okay. So if no one's has beaten it, maybe it is the highest. It was the highest a couple of years ago.
Yeah. So I mean, how many third role positions are there? There must be thousands and thousands, right?
Yeah. I mean, assuming you always make the same 15 opening moves.
Yeah.
Then it's 6,000 something, assuming that your opponent always replies accurately.
Correctly, yeah.
So in reality, where you may play some variance and he or she may play some variance, maybe it can be 10,000.
Wow. I mean, so from such a big kind of number, a big field, how did you find the positions to use for your book? I mean, there's just so much to choose from, right?
Yeah, good point. Well, I basically categorized the positions into... Yeah, I put them in different classes. For example, based on what your opening move was, or based on... I mean, in some cases, the more dominant thing is how your opponent played his move. For example, maybe he rolled double sixes. Maybe then that is the dominant thing and not so much what you rolled in the first roll. Whereas if you open with a 6-1 and he just rolled something normal, maybe it's the 6-1 that is the thing that is special about the position. So, but I try to categorize them in different families and try to pinpoint the most important things to think about in each of these families. Of course, there are several other things to think about that will not be written in my book because it's not a very long book, but it's but hopefully many people will see something new that they didn't know before.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be fantastic. When is that going to be out?
I don't know when it's going to be out, but it's going to be out before Christmas at least.
Okay.
I kind of expect November or something.
Ah, fantastic! Look forward to it. So,
but then again, we know how easy it is to follow your plan as the writer. Maybe it's going to be out in October 2025. Let's see.
I'm sure it'll be worth the wait. Yeah. How do you feel? You're playing someone, maybe it's an intermediate, and you make the opening move, and then they play the opening reply incorrectly, and it kind of skews the position. Does that kind of throw you at all when players do that? Or not so much?
No, I mean, if they just make a bad move, then you're happy. I would have to say, generally speaking, I don't care a lot because once you've studied the opening a lot, or any class of position in backgammon, once you've studied it a lot, it doesn't matter a lot that it's not exactly the position you've seen before. You have internalized some concepts that you can apply to any sort of similar position. I mean, I'm not going to say you don't make mistakes, because you're going to make mistakes, but you can handle it decently. Yeah.
Because I think you notice things. I mean, I certainly do. I think one opening reply is like a 3-4 where you hit on a 2-point, right? Which comes up quite often. But so many players, they don't make the hitting play because they think, obviously it's too deep to hit on a 2-point. But again, it's an interesting one that you see, time and time again. Those kind of patterns that people make, sure. So I think your book will be excellent on hopefully identifying some of those underlying issues, right? That people are making in third roll. Shall we bring up a few positions, Thomas, on third rolls, on XG?
Okay.
That might be interesting to talk about.
Let me share my screen then.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, so hopefully I'm sharing the XG window now.
Okay, I can see it. Yeah, great. 3-2 on the right. Yeah.
3-2 to play. So what would be your thinking in this position?
Well, I would be very wary of splitting after double 5 because white has a blitz structure. So it would be between reinforcing the 8-point or bringing 2 down. And I think I would just unstack the mid and bring 2 down, 13, 10, 13, 11.
Okay, so you don't have to read the book. No, but it's, precisely. So I mean, whenever you're deciding whether you want to split or not, just like you said, you should figure out: am I more afraid of being primed, or am I more afraid of being blitzed? And in this position, he has a very gappy structure. He has a stack. It's difficult for him to make his outside priming points. He's not flexible. He's up in the race. Yada yada yada. So basically, his priming chances are small, but he has decent blitzing chances. So you should not let him blitz and play 2 down. Exactly as you say. I just chose this position because it's a very classic third roll family.
Yeah.
So what are you gonna do when you played X and your opponent made a 3-point with double 5s?
Yeah.
And the answer is basically don't split. So, but that's that's only 2% of the book or something like that.
Yeah.
But that's if you know that, you know 2% of the book.
It's still a good one though, because I think recognizing formations, like prime formations, blitz formations, often helps you find the right answer. Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was that one. Okay, I'll give you another one. See if you can figure this one out.
Oh dear.
So
I'm supposed to be testing you. it's my job.
Yeah, but it's much easier when I can see the XG analysis.
Okay.
Let's see. Let me show you. Okay, this one then. Okay, so this is the second roll, yeah? So the other guy just ran with a 6-5. Now you have a 4-3 to play.
Okay, so my thinking is when you have a one person back, one checker back, you need to try to contain the checker. So I would play 13-9, 8-5.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
This is a very offensive move, but yeah. As a matter of fact, the best play is you could say the standard amongst the splitting moves with 4-3, which is 13-9 and 24-21.
Wow. Okay.
Because I'm not going to say too much about this play. It's more like this is the play if you want to split and play down with a 4-3, this is the play that is most of the time the right one. So for different reasons that can be analyzed in the first row. Anyway, that's the best play.
Can you say
yours is a bit of an overplay?
Yeah. I guess I was kind of thinking more when someone rolls a 6-5 and then you have a 2-1 as a reply and you slot the 5 points. But
yeah, that's true. But on the other hand, with a 2-1, you slot the 5 point even when the other guy didn't do anything at all.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's not much better or much worse to slot when he ran a guy, but yeah, with a 4-3, you just very rarely want to slot. So
interesting. So why is it correct, would you say, to step up and bring? Can you say a little bit more about this position?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's well, I mean, let's put it this way. In the first roll, splitting from the back and moving a guy down from the midpoint is just generally a well-balanced play in the sense that you unstack and you activate your back checkers. I mean, it has some drawbacks to it that you often get tempo hit and some other things, but generally speaking, that's a good idea in the first roll. And here, not much has happened that would make you less inclined to do it.
Sure,
I can put it that way.
So the balance, you're going through an advanced anchor. You're creating better diversification of numbers and
right. You're working towards accomplishing your opening goals, which are among a small amount of other things, unstacking and activating your back checkers. Yeah.
Sure. So if I played a 13-9-8-5, you'd probably be very pleased.
Right.
Yeah.
Then I just hit you and win.
Exactly.
So, but anyway, my point is here. If you remember here, the best play here is 24-21, 13-9, and the second best is 24-20, 13-10. Okay.
Fantastic.
And now we have the third roll, corresponding third roll position. Okay. Let me do this. Okay, so this is the same position, except now we have made our 5 points. Do you think that this makes a difference, or is the same play still gonna be best?
Yeah, blimey. I think now we're kind of developing more of a prime formation. So now it might be correct to bring 2 down to try to extend the prime to contain the back checker. I'm prepared to be wrong.
I see what you mean. That's that makes some sense. But in any case, my point here was the choice between the big split and down and the small split and down. And we could see in the previous position that you wanted to make the small split and down, yeah?
Yeah.
But in this position, you want to make the big split and down. And why? It is because 5-4 cannot hit you in the outfield anymore.
Oh, okay.
5-4 used to be a hitting number. Now it's a complete air ball. So that is the reason. So that is something that I'm going to show in the book as well. A couple of examples where, because you've established a new point in the first roll, actually you tend to place your builders in a new spot because it's safer due to blocking your opponent's hitting rolls.
So this is where dice distribution, as you mentioned, is really useful to see.
Yeah.
There's a swing. So playing 2 down might kind of overly aggressive.
Yeah, I haven't rolled it out. It's not the best play, but I haven't rolled it out because my point was to show the swing between the other 2 plays.
Yeah.
Due to the hitting number.
So fantastic. So obviously those small insights have come, I imagine, at the expense of a lot of work and study.
Right.
Yeah. But
yeah. And here we could see it's not super important. It matters some 20 millipoints or something, or 25 maybe. But yeah, if you play more accurately, you can compensate for a few more blunders.
Okay, so Thomas, I've got one for you.
Yeah.
So you can set it up if you want to. I get a chance to test you now and see if you can get it right.
It's good. You're getting your revenge now.
I'm getting my revenge, exactly. So the position is 4-1 as an opener.
Played 13-9, 24-23.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, followed by 3-2. The split.
Okay.
Yeah.
Big or small split?
So big split. Yeah.
Okay.
And now blue has a 4-3 to play. So.
Okay. Yeah. So it's like a classic dilemma of whether you want to make your own 5-point or the 5-point of the opponent. As a matter of fact, you could also hit twice if you like, but it's bad. Anyway, yeah, because I mean, just generally speaking, hitting loose is a lot worse than making a 5-point. Yeah. So, yeah. Then, generally speaking, in this position, making the 20-point is often going to be right if your opponent hasn't split, because the 20-point is about equally strong as the 5-point, and you if you make the 5-point, you strip the 8-point in the process. So that means it comes with some sort of downside. But in this case, when he has split, it instead comes with an upside because you clean up a shot that you would otherwise be leaving. So in this case, I'm very convinced that you must make your own 5-point and avoid leaving a shot.
Let's see the analysis.
Yeah. Okay. So
well done.
I don't have to give up writing the book just yet.
You've proven your credentials. Yeah. There's another one that we'll just look at one more. So,
Okay.
so a kind of a 3-2 opening roll, splitting with a 3-2.
Okay. The classic play, I presume.
Yeah.
This one. Yeah.
Yeah. So go back to the opening. Yeah. Okay. Followed by a white hitting with a 6-2. And bring you one.
6-2. Is he coming to the bar? Or yeah, he's coming to the bar. But what bar point?
Yeah, that one 13-7.
Okay.
And then blue has a 5-1 to play. So how would you play this 5-1 as blue? Obviously, one's on the bar.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna have to assume bar 26-5 is gonna be right. Bar 24-13-8 looks a bit too passive, given that fours are duplicated as well. I would probably go with that.
Okay. Check.
But yeah, it's not super obvious. He has 9 guys in the zone. He's not threatening too much to prime. But what makes me extra inclined to slot is our guy on the 11 point, because slotting the 5 works very, very well with having an 11 point guy. Yeah. Because either it can help cover the 5, or if we get hit there, it can hit back. So
check it out.
So that's gonna be my play, but let's see. This one was not as easy, I have to admit. Okay, it worked out. I got you on the quiz factor. No, but yeah, I think I could find that play.
Yeah, well done. Easy for you, but you're right. The duplication of 4s and the spare on the 11 sounds fantastic. The book, third roll position. It's something I need to read, but judging by this this demonstration. But I think your understanding of the game is very, very deep, and little insights are of great benefit, for a lot of people who watch this channel, for sure.
Yeah.
Let's have a look now. I asked you to bring up a cube decision from the the Swedish Open. It was a match against Gaz Owen, and the cube was a redouble. I thought it was quite interesting. So let's just talk about that. Move away from the third rolls for a moment.
Right. It's this one, right?
Yeah.
We can. Okay, no, we can't remove the analysis. We'll just have to see it. Okay. Yeah, it's this one, right?
Yeah, this is right. So white is choosing to redouble, right? It's 12 away, 12 away, deciding whether to send an 8 cube.
Right.
And the correct decision is actually it's a no double, big take. But here white can hit with 3s, 5s, 1s, right? What's that? 27 rolls. So I think a lot of players might drop this because of the threat. So how did you find the take here? What was your thinking?
Yeah, the first thing I thought was, damn it, because I rolled a 6-5 the roll before. That was a horror roll. But then you need to realize, or what I thought was this: if he's gonna miss me, if he rolls one of his 9 non-hitting numbers, then I have won. I mean, as it happened, I actually took a roll because I thought I was maybe somewhat too good, which was incorrect. It would have been correct to cash by a small amount. But anyway, if he misses me, I have won. So I have 25% winning chances right there.
Yeah.
because I can cash with the cube. And if he hits me, he has not won. Then again, he could pick up the other guy as well and win a gammon. So what I need to ask myself is, how are my chances of winning after he hits me compared to my risk of getting gammoned after he hits me?
Sure.
And as I saw it, the gammon risk was relatively small. We can also see that it is around 12%.
Yeah.
First he has to hit, then he has to hit another guy, then he has to close me out. And when that has happened, he's still a big underdog to win a gammon. So, yeah. So given that, I had to say that it was more important that I have had some chance to win after being hit than that I had some risk of getting gammoned after being hit. So then I knew that I was better than 25%. I mean, the 25 that I had because of his misses originally. So given that, I knew that I had to take. But yeah, it was a very important decision, of course, in the match. So yeah, I took some extra time to make sure that I didn't mess it up, basically.
Yeah, so it was a very good decision, and obviously it's a huge take here. Why is it a no double for white here? Is it simply because you're playing for the match if you miss?
No, I don't think it's because of that. I mean, given the numbers, when you look at how often he wins the game, whenever you win 62% of the games, you're rarely going to have a redouble. Yeah. I mean, sometimes you are going to have a redouble when it's an absolutely deciding moment, which it kind of is here. I mean, it is a very, very important role for sure, but it is not a complete winner. Yeah. I mean, let's say that he hits me with what can we say, 5-1, and I come in with 5-1 as well. So he has now hit me, and I have a guy I can put up that position, so people don't have to visualize it. But I mean, let's say he hits me here with 5-1, does something like this, and I come in with 5-1 and do something like this. Yeah. Has he won now? No. The answer is no. He has not won. So I mean, even in this position, if you are white, you're not kicking yourself for not having cube. You actually still don't even have a double. Yeah. Wow. So I think that is why it's the combination of that. I actually have quite good chances of winning. It's the combination of that I can cash when I get missed. I think that's a small factor because playing on too good is still fine, and also when he hits, he still hasn't won. So yeah.
So that's interesting, the thinking. So when you got this decision over the board, you were kind of playing it forward to see it's like Zenek does basically. What would happen if he comes in with this and I come in with this, and you could see there's a lot of game left. Do you think?
I think this position lends itself perfectly to categorizing his roles. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think players would pass this? They'd see like the triple hit, and they'll just get kind of scared and choose to drop a big cube.
Yeah, I mean, let's say, if this situation happened to 100 players in the tournament, there would not be 100 takes. I agree with that.
Interesting. Yeah, it was an interesting one, and it was a great match to watch. What do you think people find difficult about cubing? Like intermediate improvers. I've asked other grandmasters this question, but like, why is it really hard to kind of find the redoubles, find the takes, and what is it about the cube? So
Yeah. So you mean basically why is the cube handling in a sense more difficult than checker play? Is that what you mean? Or
I think so. I mean, do you agree with that? That cubes?
I think that well, I mean, from a purely theoretical standpoint, you can say that whenever you need to choose a checker play, all you need to do is say, is this position better than that position? So you need to compare two different positions and say which one dominates the other. And you don't have to say anything about are they any good or anything like that. You just have to say which one is best. Whereas when you have a cube decision, to a great extent, you need to say not only is this position better than this one, no, you need to say what is the equity of this position. That is a lot more difficult question to answer. Or well, that's a little bit exaggerated. In principle, you have to say, is it more than one or is it less than one if it's a take-pass decision, for example. But that is where reference positions come in handy, I believe, because if you have a reference position, then all of a sudden you can convert it into the same sort of problem that you have for checker plays. You can say, is it better than my reference position or is it worse? Right. And if you can answer that question, you can also make the right cube decision.
But how would a newer player know they have a reference position to begin with? Like, where do you start from, for example?
I mean, how do you mean how do you get your first reference position?
Yeah, as someone kind of hearing, this kind of language for the first time.
Well, I think that the first step is perhaps not to be clueless in the positions that are very, very common and straightforward. So you can pick up perhaps a book like Kit Woolsey's Backgammon Encyclopedia, or maybe Mark's Cube Like a Boss, it's called, or something like that, where you have some reference positions for different categories of positions. Then you can, for example, figure out approximately what do I need to take a holding game cube. What else is there? Yeah, for the early blitzes, you can look at those. You can look at how many guys does my opponent have to have, or how many guys do I have to have taken off in order to take a cube when I'm closed out, something like that. But I think if you have zero reference positions, in principle, it's very easy, because if you can get one reference position, then actually you became a better player. So you're in a good position. I mean, it's easy to improve, but I think it's probably good to take up something that comes up a lot, or something that you just are interested in.
Yeah, some good example. You can close the boards now if you want to, by the way, Thomas.
Yep.
So wonderful. So thinking more about intermediates, you mentioned a few things there kind of regarding reference positions, early blitz and taking checkers off in the bear off and all, things like that. What else do you think intermediate players kind of need to know to kind of to move up to get to like a master level? What kind of essential learning kind of is there, do you think?
Yeah, I think, like I said before, a lot in backgammon is not being too terrible at too many things. So that kind of answers that question a little bit as well. You need to know a little bit of everything if you want to progress to a good level. But I remember when I started out in backgammon that Stick Rice, who is a very good backgammon teacher and player, told me that I should probably focus on holding games and the early game first, because those things come up a lot, and they can also help you play some other positions, particularly the early game. And I of course I cannot say what my journey would have been like if I would have taken someone else's advice, but I think that his advice helped me at least.
Yeah, interesting.
So I'm going to say the same, because I really don't know. I don't know what's most efficient, but I know that works pretty well.
What would you say, following on, are some common mistakes that kind of players of our level tend to make over the board? What are things you've kind of seen that?
I don't know. I guess it's a little bit of everything. I mean, I don't know. That's a very difficult question to answer. I think it's like, yeah, no, I don't know. I don't know. It's very difficult to say something particular.
Sure, no problem. So, do you give lessons, Thomas? Just out of interest, do you have students that you teach?
I don't have any students. I've given a few lessons to friends on a few occasions just for fun, but I don't give lessons in an organized manner or something like that. No.
Is there do you like teaching? Is there like is that like a conscious choice, or
Yeah, it's a conscious choice in the sense that I have another job and I want to play some backgammon of my own, and now I'm writing this book, and so I don't want to prioritize setting time aside for that as things are now. But at some point, I could definitely see myself giving more lessons.
Yeah. I think you'll be a great teacher. Yeah, you should you should look into that. And how can we grow the game? How can we? Obviously, Galaxy is doing amazing work with streaming these huge matches. Do you have any other ideas how we can get more people in, like young people, maybe more women? Like, what can we do to make it more bigger, popular?
Maybe it's a matter of a snowball effect to some extent, I can imagine. I mean, so if you get some young people to start playing, maybe it's easier to get a few more, because and the same perhaps with women and so on, because it's difficult to perhaps show up in an environment and feel like you're an outsider somehow. I mean, it takes a little bit more to start then. So, but I don't really know what some good strategies are. But I know, for example, in Japan, there are young people streaming backgammon on Twitch, and I'm not talking about like Michi or Hideaki or someone like that. These are like pretty bad players just saying, I'm playing backgammon now, come watch me play on Twitch. And some people are watching it and having fun, etc. And I know in Japan they are growing the game, but that is not to say that you need to start twitching for backgammon games. I don't know. I think I'm the wrong person to answer that question, but I think part of it is also like you need to have a marketing budget in general. I think
it's.
Yeah, I think if you don't have a marketing budget, it's going to be some sort of organic thing.
I think it's moving in the right direction. I mean, what amazes me is you go onto YouTube and there must be like thousands of chess YouTube channels, thousands. Whereas backgammon, there's about five or six backgammon channels. And, I set out, I'm a teacher, I love backgammon, and I wanted to give something to like intermediate players and get great grandmasters on just to talk about what they love about the game. But we need more, Mochi needs a channel, you need a channel, Dirk Sheeman, Wilcott, come on, let's get some more kind of content kind of out there, really.
But it's getting better.
It's getting better.
I mean, if you compare it to 5 years ago, there's a huge difference, actually.
Yeah. What was he like 5 years ago?
Yeah, I'm just thinking, I mean, now there are channels for, I mean, Steniek has a channel, Michi has a channel,
right.
You have yours, there's the Backgammon Galaxy channel, etc. I mean, there's actually something, whereas maybe 5 years ago there wasn't a lot.
Yeah. So 5 years ago, when you said you played backgammon, you'd get a response like, "What's backgammon?" Maybe.
That's still the same, but yeah.
Thomas, it's been great, honestly, having you on the channel. And you know, your advice and your book's going to be brilliant. And I just think you're a great asset to backgammon. You know, your demeanor and your enthusiasm. It's terrific. I remember actually when you did something with Ola a few years ago, and you were just taking like positions from loads of people, and I love that generosity, you know, sharing your knowledge. So fantastic. Last question: what do you love about backgammon? What is beautiful? What do you love about it?
I love many things about it. But one thing that I think makes it unique, or at least a bit unique, is that you have the chance. There's always uncertainty. You never know if you're going to win or lose, and there's always incentive for you to do all you can in a given match. I mean, let's say you're playing tennis against someone who's a lot better or worse than you have almost zero incentive to do your best. Whereas in backgammon, it really matters, and I think it's great that anyone can beat anyone. I think that's a great thing.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Thomas, for coming on my channel. I wish you every success in the future. I look forward to you getting to G0 and SGM level.
All right. Take it easy.
Well,
thanks.
But no, it's been brilliant talking to you, and thank you for your time and your ideas, and yeah, all the best. Have a good life in Malamo.
Thank you for having me, and you're doing a great job with your channel.
Thank you, Thomas. Goodbye. See you later.
Bye.